Alrighty, yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. And today, we finna react to CM Punk versus Undertaker WrestleMania feud was unhinged. I have to agree, it was very unhinged. Paul Bearer just passed away not too long ago, and they was already making fucked up. I hate when WWE does that. Somebody passes away and they use their death as a way to tell a story. Like, no.
When CM Punk lost to The Rock at the 2013 Rumble, his 434-day title reign was officially over. The 434-day reign that featured banger matches, an unexpected heel turn, Paul Heyman becoming his manager. It was a reign where CM Punk beat the fraud allegations and became a legend. But once that title reign was over, thank you for your service, Sergeant Punk, thank you for your sacrifice, but we need you to move aside because it's time for twice in a lifetime. Before we knew it, Punk went from being champion for over a year to out of the title picture to out of the WrestleMania main event. It was back to reality. But luckily, there was still something special that CM Punk could do at WrestleMania. It wasn't going to be the main event, it wasn't going to be a title match, but for many fans, shit, it was just as special. If Punk after his 434-day reign wasn't going to be in the main event, it would only be right that he would attempt to break the streak. The Undertaker going into WrestleMania 29 was 20-0, 20 wins at WrestleMania, 0 losses, and over the years the streak had become something magical. Gone were the days of Giant Gonzalez and the Big Show's fat ass. The Undertaker at WrestleMania post 2005, not including you, Mark Henry, was box office. Taker might have been in his mid-40s, he might have had a hip that barely worked, but he didn't give a fuck, he really didn't. WrestleMania was his night, and on that night every single year he would do whatever it took to put on a classic. And because of that, a streak based on predetermined outcomes became larger than life. The streak became something mythical. The dead man versus the best in the world was right there for the making. On the March 4th episode of Monday Night Raw, The Undertaker made his return, and after CM Punk won a fatal 4-way, it was confirmed it was going down. Raw went off the air with Punk and Taker staring into each other's souls, pyro going off, lights were off, smoke was all over the arena, and the match that every single fan wanted was set. See, normally that itself would have been the only hype this feud needed. The streak was on the line against the best in the world. Every single fan already knew it was going to be a classic. The story wrote itself, but in 2013, the universe had different plans. Instead, a real-life tragedy would take place and turn what was supposed to be a normal feud for the streak into one of the wildest, hottest, most controversial WrestleMania builds we had ever seen. From urns being stolen to a family traumatized to a show-stealing classic match, ladies and gentlemen, The Undertaker and CM Punk WrestleMania feud was absolutely unhinged, and all these years later, it definitely deserves a look back at. Let's get into it. Just one day after the match was set, the entire build of this feud before it even begun was flipped turned upside down. Sad news came out that changed everything. On March 5th, 2013, Paul Bearer, The Undertaker's former manager, had passed away. The legend who was truly an iconic figure in wrestling, who was synonymous with The Undertaker for so many different generations, was sadly no more. But with his death taking place literally hours after Taker's Mania match was confirmed, immediately the biggest question was whether or not the company was going to use Paul Bearer's death in the feud.
You know they
the
were.
reason that was a question was because this company had done this many times before, but the reactions and opinions were all over the place. From
You knew they was going to do this. They did this. This is Vince McMahon we talking about here. You knew they was going to do this.
Quote, Bear's death should be off limits, to quote, no way does Taker okay that, to quote, it's good business, it needs to happen, it will add so much more heading into WrestleMania. But once it was announced that the next Monday Night Raw was going to feature The Undertaker paying tribute to Paul Bearer, boys and girls, everyone, and I mean everyone, knew exactly where this was going. See, there was nothing ever off limits in the WWE, but the question was, how far would they go? Raw kicked off with this super emotional, super well done video tribute to Paul Bearer. It was beautifully made, so nice to see, and super respectful. This would also be the last time he would be respected during this feud. Undertaker comes out to open the show, the crowd goes crazy, and it's emotional, it feels real. Taker looks visibly sad and shaken up, and he goes in the ring where there's an urn placed, and we as the audience are to assume it represents Paul Bearer's ashes in there, and the Undertaker gets on one knee and pays tribute to his old friend, his true day one OG, and ladies and gentlemen, as Taker does that, right, as Taker pays tribute, as Bear's face pops up on the Tron, we get one of the greatest transitions of all time. The graphic transitions to Punk's Tron, Punk's music hits, you hear that static, and the crowd loses their mind. Mind you, Taker is still bowing, but ladies and gentlemen, we're on the road to WrestleMania. We ain't got time to pay tribute. We got money to make. This was a somber moment. This was supposed to basically be a kayfabe funeral for Paul Bearer. But this piece of shit just had to crash it. And CM Punk was not only here to piss on the Undertaker's grave, but Paul Bearer's as well. And for the next 4 weeks, that is exactly what he did. What started off with Punk just saying lines such as, hey, at least Paul won't be here to see your streak die, and don't worry, in a few weeks we'll get a tribute video for your streak as well, ended up escalating very quickly. And that same episode of Raw, which remember was a tribute to Paul Bearer, ended with not only Punk beating Kane's ass, but taking the urn, which presumably had his father's ashes in there, beating this shit out of Kane and then stealing it. Ending Paul Bearer tribute night, hitting the Undertaker pose on stage with a stolen urn, and for the next few weeks, Punk was gonna make sure that Bearer wasn't resting in peace. CM Punk was on demon time. The amount of disrespect he threw at the Undertaker, we had genuinely never seen before. The next week on Raw, Taker came out to the ring and said, Punk has one chance to save his soul, and that's if he gives the urn back right now. Punk does the opposite, and instead, all you hear is this.
Oh yes!
Oh, my Undertaker. The visual of Punk hiding behind the urn and using it like a puppet mocking Paul Bearer less than 2 weeks after he died is one of the most insane things I've ever seen on TV. Even Taker was just like, what the fuck are we doing? Punk for the next 2 weeks just does whatever he wants. He throws around the urn, doing trick shots with it. Optic Punk was in the cut, and he made a complete mockery of the urn. The Undertaker would just be there looking absolutely mortified every single time. But what made it special was during all of this, Punk would still be dropping bars. Quote, you might be the best on one night every year. I'm the best in the world 365 days in a year. Next week on Raw, Punk was back at it like a crack addict, but this time he had his boy Paul Heyman involved, and man, when it comes to disrespecting the dead and getting some heat, there is nobody more excited than Paul Heyman. Heyman holding the urn was moving different. It was like he was fucking possessed by it or something. He had a little extra pep in his step. They were out here tossing around the urn, throwing it on the ground, but Punk once again super locked in, just spitting bars. Quote, you should have retired last year when you were holding hands with Triple H and Shawn Michaels on the WrestleMania stage. Quote, this urn means nothing to me. I will be the one in 20-1. For 3 straight weeks, he cooked the Undertaker. He disrespected Taker, disrespected his career, disrespected his dead OG. He was smoking on the Paul Bearer pack, and it was so loud. And whenever Taker tried to do something about it, he couldn't. Punk would rat it out and escape without a scratch. And it all led to the Go Home show, their final meeting on the last Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania. After those 3 weeks, the company knew that they had to go big. They had to deliver a big angle that would have everyone talking. After 3 weeks of build-up, it was like, what the hell was CM Punk gonna do to The Undertaker before the WrestleMania match? How much further could they possibly go? Let's just say nobody expected how far they actually went. See, before we even got to the final Raw, there were already articles and think pieces being written and posted on how distasteful this angle had gotten. Quote, WWE implying the Undertaker's urn contains Paul Bearer's ashes is a bad idea. It's time for the WWE to end the Bear angle and hype Undertaker's match against CM Punk. It's not necessary to stir up personal conflict anymore. Yeah, we'll see about that. It was Monday Night Raw live from Washington, D.C., the Go Home Raw for WrestleMania 29. And to put into perspective how big, how hyped up Punk versus Undertaker was at this point, their segment was going to be the main event. Not Lesnar and Triple H, not Rock and Cena. All eyes were on these 3 men. Well, I guess 4. So after 2 hours and 40 minutes of airtime, it was a final segment of Raw. It was essentially the main event, the go-home angle before WrestleMania to get those final orders in. And out came The Undertaker.
And this is where he dumped the ashes all over himself.
Boo this man!
He dumped the damn ashes all over himself. Even though we know that's not Paul Bearer ashes, but still the disrespect.
Looks pissed, he looks angry, looks the most deadly he's looked all month. The real Undertaker was back just in time for WrestleMania. He gets in the ring, grabs the mic and says that Punk decided to make this personal, so Punk is gonna suffer. Taker says that beating Punk is not good enough. The disrespect that he showed Paul Bearer will bring Punk much pain. And then Taker says, the streak may end on Sunday, but Punk will never live to talk about it. A cold, menacing promo from the dead man that really sets up and sells their match perfectly. But we all knew this wasn't it. Listen, this was not it. This feud had gotten so personal, so heated, which by the way is impressive when one of the characters is a dead zombie. It wasn't gonna just stop there. And then it began. The lights went off and the iconic Undertaker Druids made their way out in the arena. One by one, they all walked out. Some of them were holding their torches as usual, but this time, the Undertaker wasn't expecting his homies. The arena is dead silent. They have no idea what the hell is happening. The speakers are playing the creepy ass Undertaker line chant, and with the Undertaker just standing there, we then hear this. We hear Paul Bear's voice, but this time, boys and girls, Paul Bear wasn't back from the dead. No. Instead, on the stage, you see a different Paul. You see Paul Heyman dressed up like Paul Bear, wig on, makeup and all. He taunts the Undertaker. He has the urn, and at this point, it's on sight for Taker. Taker takes off his jacket, runs to the stage. The commentary is dead quiet. Paul Heyman, the Walrus, doesn't even flinch. He just makes some silly ass faces. Taker rushes to him, but then he stops. And it was at this exact moment that Taker knew he fucked up. Surrounded by these druids, Taker snaps. He starts punching, choking, attacking all the jobbers on the stage. He's looking for Phil Brooks, but Phil Brooks finds him first. CM Punk attacks Taker from behind and proceeds to beat the shit out of him. He hits him with the urn countless times. He's just destroying Taker. Taker is crawling. He's reaching for the urn, but it doesn't matter. Punk is screaming, "It's over, it's over," and he lays out the Undertaker. 6 days before WrestleMania, Taker is cooked. He's laid on the stage. His op is beating his ass with an urn. Paul Heyman is looking like this. GG. And the wildest part, the most fascinating part was the crowd was split. It was 50-50. Half of the audience was chanting Undertaker and half of the crowd was still chanting CM Punk. Listen, 2013 CM Punk had different motion, but what came after this left even the most diehard Punk fans a little shook. With Taker laying there after Edward Norton beat his ass, Punk opens up the urn, the crowd gasps, and he starts pouring what we are to assume Paul Bear's ashes on the Undertaker. He's throwing it at him, he's rubbing them on himself. This motherfucker had lost his damn mind. Paul Bear's quote-unquote ashes were all over the place. They were on both of them. CM Punk is really from O Block. This was King Von's biggest inspiration over here. And with Raw about to go off the air, he hits him with the Undertaker pose, and Monday Night Raw ends like this. What the fuck? PG era my ass. Dead ops were being smoked, and what was supposed to be the dead man versus the best in the world ended up being this. And to say that the world was shocked would be an understatement. Fans lost their mind. We hadn't seen anything like this in a long time, and everyone had something to say. That it was disgusting, that it was disgraceful, that they wouldn't be ordering the show anymore, that the company went too far. But obviously what was fascinating was, for every person who felt that way, there were others that got that much more excited to watch the show. Yeah, it was disgusting, but can't wait to see the Undertaker beat the shit out of CM Punk. And let me tell you from some first-hand experience, as an edgy 14-year-old at the time, I loved when this went down. I thought this was the greatest angle I'd ever seen. I wasn't even a CM Punk fan like that. But after this, I was like, yo, you know what? Why not have Punk break the streak at this point? I was gonna watch WrestleMania regardless, but after this, I was a little extra locked in. You either loved it or you hated it, and the next day, Paul Bear's actual son, not you, Kane, Michael, commented on it. And he said, quote, "If anyone is wondering, yes, WWE did come to us wanting approval for tonight's storyline. The way it was presented to us was okay. Seeing it on screen was a different story. I don't even know what to say."
That's typical Vince McMahon for you. He tell you one thing and then it's another. That's typical Vince McMahon for you. Yep.
Nigga!
Honestly, can you even blame him? Oh, Elite Wrestling, man, what a strange business. But yeah, just like that, The Undertaker and CM Punk, which like I said was already going to be massively hyped and exciting, became that much more special. A real-life tragedy combined with the company losing their minds and pushing the envelope like it was 1999 made CM Punk versus The Undertaker the match that everyone cared about. It became common sentiment that maybe Taker and Punk should main event. Fuck Twice in a Lifetime, fuck Triple H, fuck Brock Lesnar. This should have been the main event. That's how it felt like back then, And it still feels like that. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, this was the real WrestleMania 29 main event. But after just a 1 month build, the only thing left was to see if the match could live up to the hype. It was WrestleMania 29 live from New Jersey. The main event may have been twice in a lifetime. Triple H may have beat Brock Lesnar for some reason, but no match on this card felt as big as this one. This was definitely the moment where 90% of wrestling fans found out that Living Color was a black man. But you want to talk about a big match feel, a big match entrance. Living Color sounded amazing. The stage looked great. CM Punk made his way out, walking out, feeling himself extra nice. Even Heyman was grooving. As cheesy as it sounds, there was something special in the air. And then with Punk sitting in the ring, it was then time for my favorite Undertaker WrestleMania entrance of all time. So growing up here in Toronto, the WWE actually had a deal with movie theaters here, and from the early 2000s until 2015, you were able to watch every single pay-per-view at the movies on the big screen. WrestleMania 29 was one of the shows that I personally saw at the movies. Now listen, the show was dog shit, waste of money, but seeing the Undertaker on the big screen walk through all the dead zombies as they reach out for him, the music blasting,
oh yeah, that shit was fire,
so deadly, the pyro light in the stadium, it was the best experience.
I ain't gonna lie, that was the most fire entrance he ever did. That shit was fire.
Could have got without actually being in the stadium. And that's why I have such fond memories of this match. I didn't just watch it, I watched it at the movie theater, in a packed movie theater where everyone was reacting, everyone was enjoying, and this was the one match on the night that everyone cared about. Taker walked to the ring, amazing entrance, he got to the steps, rolled his eyes to the back of his head, some of the most beautiful pyro you'll ever see lit up the sky. This was the WWE's presentation at its best. The crowd was rabid, once again the stadium looked so beautiful, and well, it was time for a classic. The match pops off instantly. CM Punk bitch slaps Taker, he's running around, he takes control with the purple attire. Punk and Taker were gonna do whatever it took to drop a classic. And what I love about this match is, compared to the years before, to the epic HBK and Triple H matches, CM Punk was just here to win. This man had no morals, he had no problem being a rat, he just wanted to win. He wasn't here to aura farm with stare downs and pace around and create cinema. Nah, he was slapping Taker, he was begging for a fight. This was a wrestling match and the crowd loved every second of it. This was good versus evil. And the wild part is, just like the go home show, half of the crowd, if not slightly more, were cheering for CM Punk. And I still remember, even in the movie theater I was in, which was packed, I would say 60 to 70% of the fans were cheering for Punk. And it wasn't because we hated Taker or wanted the streak to end, it was just like, yo, love him or hate him, but CM Punk was so electric at the time, we just had to pay respect for what he was cooking up. Taker took control, but everything changed when CM Punk countered Old School and sat there smiling. And what does this rat do? What does Mr. Vaughn do? He has the audacity to hit the Undertaker with his own Old School at WrestleMania, and you can see in the crowd that they were jumping for joy when he hit that shit. And what cannot be understated is the brilliance of Paul Heyman. Punk is doing his thing in the ring with Taker, right? But whenever you look to the side, all you see is Paul Heyman, dead serious, locked in, just holding up the air and like it possesses some fucking magical powers or something. Who knows what was in there? I doubt Paul Bear's ashes made it to WrestleMania. They're all over Washington, D.C. Paul Heyman was locked in. These two went back and forth. They sacrificed for the industry. Undertaker at the time this match was 48 years old, but Punk was still moving. One of my favorite parts was, after dominating the match for a bit, Punk got cocky again and he went for Old School once again, but this time he slips on the ropes, and this image is just so funny. Heyman is like, ah shit. Taker is just eyeing down CM Punk like, yo, you fucking bitch, and he just nails Punk out of the ring. Taker is off a bean, he doesn't feel his hip anymore, so who cares? He's about to sacrifice for the industry that made him, but all I'm gonna say is, ladies, get yourself a man like Paul Heyman, a man who doesn't pay his talent and goes bankrupt, but also a man who will protect you from a suicide dive. At this point, it's like, yo, CM Punk is dropping elbows, Paul Heyman is the difference maker, maybe, just maybe, what if the streak ends tonight? Nah, at this point, I wasn't convinced. I still thought Taker was gonna win, no problem, and I assume that 99.9% of the fans watching thought the same thing. They go back and forth, it picks up, choke slam, snake eyes, Paul Heyman starts hugging the herd even tighter, but business picks up, fellas, when Taker attempts like the last right on Punk through the announce table. Crowd begins to stand up, they start cheering, yay, table bump. Punk gets up for the ride, but nah, next thing you know, Taker is on the table, and what does CM Punk do? What does Phil Brooks do? His legacy was on the line. 70,000 in MetLife Stadium. They didn't give him the main event, so what is he gonna do? He's gonna sacrifice and make this the main event. He stands on the apron, every single person in the stadium was on their feet, and boom, flying elbow, absolutely crushing the bro. He almost kills the Undertaker. He almost turns a dead man into a 5-time dead man. Elbows him in the chest. The table doesn't break, but it's fine. There's broken bones for sure. Shit, no wonder Taker couldn't move the next year. Both these men were cooked. Punk hurt his knee by hitting the table. Taker could barely breathe, but it didn't matter. They still had another gear to reach. Taker beats the count out by 1 second, and I'm not gonna lie, I vividly remember this in the movie theater. People held their breath when it was at 9. There were a lot of people, including myself, were like, wait, this is too close. Well, what if he slips? What if he falls? What if Mike Chioda tweaks and says 10 by accident? But Taker gets back in the ring. Punk is about to cry. Heyman is yelling at him, do anything you have to do, which at this point, Punk, honestly, just shoot him, get it over with. But nah, Taker gets him in the Hell's Gate. Somehow Punk reverses that into an Anaconda Vice. Paul Heyman is about to have a stroke, and bang, Taker sits up, they lock eyes, iconic image, iconic moment, the crowd explodes. Ladies and gentlemen, even rewatching this in 2026, my shirt was off. Chokeslam, no. GTS barely. Instead, Taker eats the Mickey Mouse GTS, and instead Tombstone out of nowhere. 1, 2, no. CM Punk kicks out the Tombstone at WrestleMania. Heyman starts tweaking, jumping for joy, jaws are on the floor, and the next level is reached. They start trading punches, and it was time for one of the best streak moments ever. The last great streak near fall. It was never gonna reach this level ever again. They're in the corner, the ref is down. Taker grabs him for the last ride, and Heyman the Walrus passes Punk the urn, and just before getting cooked with the last ride, he hits the Undertaker with the urn. And the moment Punk goes for the pin, he doesn't go for a normal pin. No, why would we do that? He goes for the Undertaker pin, and look at the reaction in the background of the fans. Look at this. That will tell you everything you need to know. I thought this was it. Back in 2013, I really thought this was it, because to me, it's like, if the streak was ever gonna end, and if it wasn't the sweet chin music into the pedigree and all that shit from last year, to me it was like, if the streak is ever gonna end, it was gonna be from the urn. Tongue out like Jordan, ref slowly gets up. 1, 2, no. Legendary kick out, absolutely legendary kick out. And after this, we knew it was a wrap. CM Punk could have jumped into an AC-130, a chopper gonna shop the stadium, but he wasn't winning. He does the Taker taunt, he gets in for the GTS, Taker gets him into a tombstone. CM Punk somehow reverses that like he's 1997 Rey Mysterio. GTS again, no. Tombstone, and simply put, 1, 2, 3, Taker wins and gets revenge for his OG. Listen, 5-star classic, 5-star classic. Words can't describe how amazing this experience was watching this live back in 2013, especially on the big screen, but even now it holds up so well. When I look at my fandom, this is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had watching wrestling without actually being in the stadium for a show. For those 20 minutes, it didn't matter if it was real or fake, but just like the streak made us feel every single year, it made you feel things you didn't even know were possible while watching wrestling. And I love this match. I think it's such a great match. Punk tried cheating, he tried mocking him, going strike for strike, surprise dives, using his manager, hitting the referee, using the urn, and so much more, but it wasn't meant to be. 22 minutes of epicness. I love this match. I love everything about it, from the entrances to the dynamic, the build, Punk attempting everything and anything, Taker turning back the clock. Was it sloppy at times? Yeah, but just like WrestleMania 25, the sloppiness made it better. The botches or the table not cooperating made it better. It made it feel more authentic and real. This was truly the true main event of WrestleMania 29. And I gotta say this was such a refreshing change of pace from the previous 4 Undertaker WrestleMania matches. A lot of people compare this match to the Triple H and Shawn Michaels matches, and they're like, oh, this match wasn't as epic as those. But that wasn't the point of this match. See, those matches were different. Those matches wanted and tried to be epic before they even started. This ended up being epic because of the story they told, and the story was a simple good versus evil, a rat getting his comeuppance. Undertaker didn't hit the last ride, he hit 2 tombstones, CM Punk hit 1 GTS, which barely counts as hitting one. There wasn't finisher spam, there was just a good wrestling match in here. It was good versus evil, and good prevailed, and this ended up being the last classic Undertaker WrestleMania match. This was the true end of an era. After this match, The Undertaker would never be the same, and honestly, the signs were here. Now that I rewatched this all these years later, I noticed like, oh, he didn't do The Undertaker WrestleMania dive this year. So as much as I want to say after this match, Undertaker would never be the same and Age finally caught up to him, Age had already caught up to him here. It's just him and CM Punk were able to cook up and create magic one last time. And that's, I guess, what makes it special. We know that the streak ended the next year, but on this night, for one more night, he did it again. It's crazy to me how there's a whole generation of wrestling fans that there's probably people watching this right now who weren't old enough or weren't watching wrestling to truly appreciate what the streak was. They don't know how special the streak match was every year, how much of a staple of WrestleMania was, how hyped it was. And that's a shame. Undertaker WrestleMania was that guy. The streak almost became bigger than WrestleMania. And sadly, those wrestling fans are probably never going to be able to experience anything like this again, because what made the streak special was it was all organic. It was never even supposed to become what it became. But yeah, Taker got his lick back for his OG. Paul Bearer was vindicated. He could finally rest in peace. And even though it was only 1 month long, and that's the fascinating part, this was all done in a month. The Taker and Punk feud was awesome. But what a time it was to be alive. The final true classic match of Taker's career, the final true classic WrestleMania Undertaker match, and the last streak match where Undertaker won, as sad as it is to say that. What a time. In the comments down below, let me know what you think of this match. How did you watch it back in the day? What was your experience? Who were you cheering for? And everything else. It's your boy Pav, aka Wrestling Gifts. Thank you guys for tuning in to this 22+ minute video. You guys basically just watched an episode of a TV show. And for that, I thank you. I'll see you guys very
Alrighty, man. Let's just go about do it for this one for sure. I'm not gonna lie, this was the best feud going into WrestleMania 29. This was the best feud for 29 for sure, without question. This definitely was the last time Taker put on a good match. Because I'm not gonna lie, everything else Taker put up after 29, I ain't gonna lie, every single, I ain't gonna say every single match, but every WrestleMania after 29, I ain't gonna lie to you.
I'm so excited.